Welcome to CapChat, the show that connects you to the faces, voices, and stories of Cat Fam. This is episode 5. We're going to be talking about the sciences a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, Mary Claire, but this episode,
A lot of it kind of went over my head,
it was so
but
much.
it was still interesting. We learned a lot about opportunities
Yeah.
for students who are interested in being in the department,
Right.
and students who are currently in the department have been able to do and learn about, as well as some for those who are outside of the department who still have an interest in it,
Yeah.
or through classes that are required that still kind of show that science connects to all areas of life.
Yeah. When we
'Cause
say
life
over our
is
head,
science.
there's so many areas of study and so many opportunities that I couldn't keep up with some of the things. Like some were relatable to me. So, but it was still, like you said, very, very interesting because there's just so many fields and so many like career opportunities that come out of this. And it was super interesting. So basically, we talked a lot about that with Dr. Anderson, and we had student Emma Young with us,
Mhm.
which was really, really cool. So join us for episode 5 as we dive into the sciences.
Welcome to CapChat. I'm one of your hosts, Mary Claire Kunkel.
And I'm another one of your much less important hosts, John Honecker, to be debated.
I don't know.
This is episode 5, and we're talking about the sciences, all things science. And we have 2 amazing guests. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
Sure. I'm Dr. Christine Anderson. I'm an associate professor of zoology here at Capitol. I'm in the Department of Biological and Environmental Sciences. I'm also serving as a department co-chair this semester, and I also serve in an endowed professorship position. So I have an award where I help to oversee the operations at the Primmer Outdoor Learning Center, which is 75 acres of Capitol-owned field site in
Whoa.
Hocking Hills.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
My name's Emma Young. I'm a junior biology major, and I'm minoring in environmental science.
That's awesome. Thank you guys so much for being here. Let's talk all things science.
Sounds good.
So Bill Nye. No, I'm kidding.
I mean, a little bit.
Bill Nye is on your
He's on our
t-shirts.
Tri Beta shirts.
I love that.
Yeah. Our
Yeah.
honor society in the department. Yeah.
So when we talk about an area of study, we do a little exercise where we talk about different outputs, different common jobs or things to try to associate, areas of study with, some opportunities outside of these areas of study. So a couple that stood out was biochemist. Study the chemical and physical properties of living things and biological processes. Their growth in the next 10 years is slated to be about 11%. It's kind of cool. Computer and information systems manager, so related to IT, they have a pretty, a little bit bigger of a growth, about 15% in the next, people have computers. They need to know what is going on with them. So that's good. Forensic science technician. So also known as crime scene investigators, collect and analyze physical evidence. That is seeing a huge growth of 17% in the next 10 years. Everybody wants to be on CSI. So that'll be fun. And then environmental scientist. So identify, reduce, and eradicate pollutants and other hazards that threaten the environment or the population's health. And that's seen 11%. So these 10, 11, 15, 17, those are actually really big numbers. My field is seeing like smaller numbers, like single digits and all that. So it's like really cool to see these sciences kind of blow up. Is that tracking with what you've seen?
Yeah, absolutely. We still have a lot of our graduates are getting into medical school, getting into veterinary medicine, optometry, dental school, physician's assistant programs. So
Oh,
we
wow.
still serve our students to get into those tracks, those graduate programs in pre-health. But we're also seeing a large increase of students that are really interested in forensic science. So we're also thinking about ways in which we can really better serve those students between, especially the biology department and the chemistry department. of perhaps creating a new minor or looking at a way that we can emphasize that and offer more courses and take advantage of courses that are already being offered here and the experiences that students get in those courses. But genetic counseling is another big one that we're seeing a
Okay.
lot of our students are taking advantage of electives and molecular biology that we're offering in the department and applying to programs and being successful in those programs as well. A new one we have is we have some students interested in mortuary science as well. So that kind of
Wait.
bridges over to forensic science that you were talking about a little bit.
Mortuary being with, I'm sorry, but like cemetery or
Exactly.
like.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
All
Or
right.
or being able to serve as a specialist in forensic science as
Okay.
well. So,
Wow.
I know. That was a newer one for us. So it's great to get to know the first year students and hear what they're interested in and how also over the next couple of years they may change their tracks a little bit too and get involved in new things when they learn about new things.
Podcasts predict the future. Okay. If there's an increase in interest in crime scene podcasts, like that's just going to blow up.
That's actually a fair point.
Right. That's all I could keep thinking of is as I saw those numbers, I was like, okay, crime shows. Yes. I get the interest there.
If people want to become doctors because of Grey's Anatomy, they might want to become forensic scientists because of true crime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's great to hear about the increase in environmental science. We know we have
Yes.
some major problems in the world, and we're trying to do things here in our courses to prepare students for future jobs in environmental science as well. I'm teaching a course on environmental sustainability, and so
Okay.
we're looking to actually integrate that course and some other invasive species management seminars and other research courses into kind of revising our environmental science major, knowing that we've got students that are going to be going into those fields and to tackle, global climate change, to tackle plastic waste, the ocean patches of waste that are out there.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of huge issues out there that we're trying to really introduce our students to these kind of wicked, sticky problems and have them practice ways to tackle those kind of locally to then make, important positive work towards the big global sticky issues. So.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we were actually going over articles of the issues in the world today and how sciences could help tackle them.
Mhm.
So from one end, data is only getting bigger, meaning more and more information. We went from my mom took a total of 6 pictures of me, because I was the last of like a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
To now, I don't know how many photos you have on your phone, but I know I have like 1,800 or
Yeah.
something like that. So more and more data is just becoming a thing, and we have to figure out how to process it, how to analyze it, how to use it,
Mhm.
all the way to, by 20, I got to look up the article, but I think by 2050, we'll need to figure out how to produce 50% more food.
Mhm. Right.
Um,
Food scarcity, water scarcity, absolutely.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure. Yeah, 2040, the world will need to produce 50% more food. And in order to do that, breakthroughs in plant sciences are
Mhm.
needed. So it's like there's so many different fields. And I was actually pretty nervous about this episode to talk about the sciences. I was like, there's so
Yeah.
many, and I don't know.
It is. It's a really diverse field. Again, we have students, like I said, that are interested more in the medical side. So we offer courses and prepare students for positions and
Mhm.
jobs, and careers eventually in that area. But environmental science, there's a wide range. Geology, hydrologists, the things that you just mentioned as well. We're preparing our students. We've had some recent graduates gain positions with the Ohio EPA.
Okay.
We've
Yeah.
had students as well in a diverse range of fields, working at Battelle, COSI, so the education side of informing the public about what we can do to help make positive.
Yeah.
towards
As
these
far
things.
as employers or organizations that are based here in the
Mhm.
same city as Capital University, Battelle is a huge giant in the science industry.
Absolutely.
We talked actually before the show started about CAS, Chemical Abstract Services. They're a huge giant in the science industry. There's just a lot of organizations here that is right, go to Capital, and then you're like, hey, here's some opportunities with people that are actually making an impact in the Midwest.
Absolutely. Yeah. Right in Central Ohio, we have students also that, complete internships just down the road practically at Nationwide Children's Hospital
Right.
and get research experience there. So, yeah, we're very lucky as far as location goes.
Okay. thanks for being here. That was a great episode. Anything
Emma,
else?
I
Mary
know,
Claire, we're done. It's okay. Just like,
No, I'm jumping in. Emma, we've noticed, or at least I've had this experience, and a couple of other students that we've been interviewing have had an experience where they thought they were going to do one thing or something like that, and then they take a class that kind of changes their interests or expands their interests. Did that happen to you at all?
Yeah, I came in on the pre-med track, and in the spring semester, we had a course that all biology majors will take, and you go over the diversity of life. So you start kind of with the evolution of the planet, and then you'll talk about plants and all that stuff. But when we finally got to animals, I was like, these are really cool. And I've always liked animals. When I was little, I wanted to be a zookeeper. So I was trying to look up jobs where you could work with animals and things like that. But then Dr. Anderson had perfect timing and offered a conservation biology course in the fall. And so I signed up for that and dropped pre-med and added on environmental science as a minor. And then we did so many hands-on projects in her class. We wrote so many different papers that related to the things we were learning. And I was really solidified then that I wanted to do that.
that's awesome. Can we make sure, just like everybody keep in their mind as time goes on, that when, you obviously find a career in this, is there a picture of you like younger at Halloween as a zookeeper?
I
and you could
wish,
like put
but-
those side by side?
See, another picture issue then,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Growing up.
Or just you at the zoo works as well.
That works. I
Yes.
do have those.
Yeah.
Or pictures. I've always loved otters. Otters are my favorite animal.
Of course.
So I've always collected stuffed otters as time's gone on. So there is actually a picture of me with like over 30 stuffed otters. So
And I have a picture of Emma from our zoology class this past fall with her fishing pole catching fish on one
Yep.
of our field trips. So maybe we can work.
Yeah, we'll put that in the bottom. Our
Yeah.
producer will put that picture there, send it to us. So we actually went over it real fast because I definitely want to talk about Capital's unique take on this huge field,
Mhm.
what it offers its students, and what's so special about Capital.
Yeah.
You, and I hope I'm saying it right, Primmer?
Oh, yeah. Primmer.
Primmer.
Mhm. Yep. The Primmer Outdoor Learning Center, named after Merle and Margaret Primmer, who donated the property.
I should know that as a Cap grad. I apologize. My justification is we never left the conservatory because I was a music major.
Right.
So I apologize. Please don't send any letters. Okay. Primmer.
Yeah. So this was land, 75 acres that
Wow.
was donated, I think, officially back in 2005.
Okay.
And so Merle and Margaret Primmer were very active in their Lutheran church.
Mhm.
And so I think that was the connection to Capital. So this is all the way down in Logan, Ohio, about 45 minutes from here.
Yeah.
But we can just get right on College Avenue. It turns into 33 and we're there. But he was a biology teacher.
Okay.
And so he was a high school teacher and actually taught at Ohio University, but gifted the property to Capital University. And it's a very diverse property. There's a 15-acre wetland. We've had a bald eagle nesting on the property in
That's
the
cool.
wetland, and one of the trees over the wetland for the last couple of years. So we're looking at different service projects and looking at maybe trying to put together an eagle cam, be able to have live feed on our webpage and fun things like that.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's great. There's also a number of other ecosystems that are really great examples of getting our students to research them, service projects, educational opportunities as well. We've got great forest habitats down there. We have restored prairies as well. So
Wow.
we've worked with the Fish and Wildlife Service to restore prairies on 3 different parts of the property too. We've also just recently completed a service project, the first part of a service project, I guess phase 1 with the Ohio Department of Agriculture with an arborist. And so we're
Okay.
now planting disease-resistant trees that have been pretty much lost from the state of Ohio. So Emma was actually involved with that work through Tri Beta, our biology honor society. We partnered up with them.
There are trees that are no longer in Ohio that were,
Mhm.
and you
that were
are,
wiped out from diseases.
are trying to bring those back in and introduce them into this.
Exactly.
Wow.
So we're going to kind of have our own, pretty much the first experimental plot in Ohio that we're first planted some butternut trees that are resistant from a disease that really wiped out butternuts throughout Ohio. And we're looking to also get into American chestnuts, which have also been lost. I think there's 5 true American chestnuts in Ohio, and they won't even tell you where all of them are
Wow.
since they were wiped out through a chestnut blight. 100 years ago.
Wow.
So it's an exciting partnership, and
Yeah.
it's part of another one of our campuses, I guess, basically. So we've been taking students down to tour the property and to do some educational activities
go?
down at
Is
the
that
property.
was
Yes,
that
I
look?
nodded because I went. I went actually for a religion course that I was
Mhm.
taking. The religion course that all Capital students are required to take, and our professor had us go, and it was really interesting because you wouldn't think of like going to this area that's usually just for like science majors and that kind of thing
Mhm.
for a religion class. But it was so cool. We saw the bald eagle, and it was so exciting.
America.
And these like little nets with I think there were frogs or something in them. And we were learning
Yeah.
about, we like smelled a certain, I don't remember what herb it was from the trees.
Mhm.
And we're down and we're like learning about all the ecosystems. And then the assignment for the class was you had to write your own creation story because we were learning about different creation stories at the time. And it was just really interesting to just kind of get out of my bubble.
Mhm.
And one of my favorite things is when classes kind of have crossover. Like right now, I'm taking a modern philosophy course and it's in the science building, Battelle.
Huh.
And it all starts once like the age of reason comes. So when science is focused. And so it's about how philosophy has to react with the onset of science. And a humanities course, which is required for Capital students to take, it's all about how art and all of those things that I'm interested in are impacted by the onset of science. And the philosophy course that I took that kind of opened my eyes to how much I love philosophy was about philosophy and the environment. So my first introduction to that was all in the realm of like environmental conservation and ethically, what do we do about the fact that we don't have trees that we used to have anymore? So I don't know. I think it's really interesting. I'm not a science person, but I wholly appreciate people who have that, I don't know, just like rigor to be able to do experiments and make discoveries. I think it's so cool.
Yeah, and definitely research on the property and getting students down there to see a piece of that or take a large piece of it and take ownership of different research projects or service projects has been a really big part of what I've been trying to do with the property over the last couple of years. So we've got students that are studying biodiversity and the human impact on biodiversity at Primmer.
Okay.
So it's very related to what Emma learned about in conservation biology. And basically, like conservation, like you just mentioned, is about better understanding value of all organisms and protecting biodiversity and minimizing human threats against it. So we've got students that are doing biodiversity surveys of mushrooms. We've been studying the impact of forest fragmentation on small mammal populations. We've been doing field work on many different topics, but we've also been doing lab work too. So we've been studying the amphibians down there and better understanding different threats, different fungi. So we can do field work. But then this is also something that applies well to students that their first job might not be environmental science or conservation, because we can also come into the lab and do lab projects as well. So we can work with students to develop skills in the laboratory too, but it helps to benefit a big environmental issue that we're facing. So the pre-medical students get experience in PCR and DNA sequencing because we can test for these things and better understand them. And then that comes back to hopefully impacting the issue
It just
positively.
It sounds like a lot of students from a lot of different, study paths. You're just like, you're all learning, okay? You're all learning everything, so just deal with it. Now, you were talking about this, changing your degree or changing your major based on the courses you took. Now, can you tell me a little bit more about what you're studying now and how it's, you can either talk about how it relates back to what you were studying and those differences, or what you're excited about in the future. What do you plan to do with this?
Well, I think it's really cool because you can see a lot of the classes interconnect with each other.
Okay.
Things that I learned in conservation biology have connected to environmental science classes that I've taken. And they also relate to what we learned in that spring semester when I decided that I wanted to work with animals, when we were actually learning about their development and a little bit about their evolution.
Right.
We had that crossover as well with comparative anatomy, where we really went in depth with that, and vertebrate zoology, which was also taught by Dr. Anderson. But what I want to do with it is I want to work in settings where I can physically be with the animals, like when I was at that wildlife rehabilitation center, because actually seeing the animals and seeing an impact that you can have on the animals that's positive is really really nice.
Right. Yeah. That's huge.
Yeah, we've had a number of students that have gained positions at zoos as keepers and at wildlife sanctuaries. So it's been great to see ways in which through the courses that the students have gotten those experiences and worked on those skills, and through internships, like Emma mentioned, as well. So, and we also have paid positions in the department, so we can hire students and they can serve as animal technicians because we do house some organisms in Patel Hall here.
Right.
So they can get that hands-on experience with caring for organisms. And then that's how one of our students landed a job after graduation, immediately after graduation with Patel. She's actually involved in animal care of some of their study species that they house there.
Oh,
So,
that's awesome.
yeah.
That kind of relationship is super beneficial to
Yeah.
make sure that, hey, we're all trying to get there. So let's help each other. That's great.
Absolutely. And Emma's got some other things coming up on her horizon. Not only has she been working on a research project as well that's really in the area that she's excited about, but she's also going to be presenting that work. So our students present not just here at Capitol in the symposium on undergraduate scholarship that we have in April, but our students are getting experiences presenting their research, so working on their oral and written communication skills that we know employers are looking for at conferences.
Yeah, you have
She's
to talk
getting
about
funding.
what you're doing. Oh, you're getting funding?
She's funded.
I am.
There's,
Whoa.
yeah,
Yep.
she has grants.
Send me the
she
link
has
to your
awards.
Kickstarter.
Got the money.
I'll toss you.
Oh, thank you. I need some more right now. So
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that. Like, I mean, that is something that people hear what I do and the idea of getting up on a stage and presenting, and they're like, no, thank you. That's great. I'll do anything else. So, talk to me about it. Was that something that you looked forward to? And then also getting funding. What does that process look like? Because I would like some funding.
yeah. Well, there was a lot of writing to get the funding. We spent about a whole semester writing up that proposal before we got the funding. And so we finally just started breaking into that money this semester. And we've used most of it very quickly because we're looking at the genetic variation and inbreeding of gray foxes in Ohio.
Sure. Yeah.
And because you don't want them to all be sharing the same genes. That's not good for anyone.
Right.
Because they're more susceptible to diseases and environmental pressures, especially with the climate changing and with their habitats changing. They need to be able to have a little bit fight back to that. So we're looking at their genetic variation, and to do that, we do PCR, and it costs a lot of money to buy primers so that we can see the genes that we're looking at.
What is PCR?
So basically using primers, so we're using small DNA sequences to target a specific gene.
Okay.
And then we're through PCR, it's polymerase chain reaction. So,
Of course.
So it's a chain reaction. And you're creating billions of copies of the alleles that you're interested in. So these primers target those specific regions. And we make copies.
So smart.
Really what we're doing is we're genotyping. So we're looking at different alleles that different individuals have, and we're using that information to eventually calculate something like genetic diversity or variation. We're looking at how many different genes are in the gene pool in these different populations in Ohio. We're worried that genetic variation might be low and inbreeding might be high.
Right.
Which again would mean if something like canine distemper, another disease, were to come in, it would wipe out the populations completely.
It makes them susceptible to things like that.
Exactly.
What a cool opportunity. What a unique learning opportunity. But I guess my most important question is, do you get to hold any foxes?
No.
Okay.
Foxes
All right.
specific.
Yeah, I wish,
I
but
just
no.
want to know.
Yeah, but it's great. She's going to be presenting at a Ohio chapter of the Wildlife Society conference coming up just in a couple of weeks. And this is all also through a collaboration with some folks that are with Ohio Department of Wildlife and with some new Appalachian, Ohio foundations. So it's a neat
Super
way
cool.
to that, she can see what these folks do when they graduate and they're doing similar positions. And it's a great experience for her to present and get funding. And then looking at graduate school eventually, that's exactly what you do in graduate school is continue to take courses and work on research and then try to have a positive impact like we've been talking about.
I'm
So,
going to
really
attend
excited
just
for.
because I want to know how to get funding. So
Sounds
Yeah.
good.
yeah.
What are some other unique opportunities that Capital provides for those interested or majoring in science?
Yeah, that's a great question. Some of the things that we're really proud of, we've talked a little bit about the Primmer Outdoor Learning Center and some of the educational opportunities there, research opportunities, and service opportunities too. For example, we've got students that are in other departments, such as art, and they're helping to design new signage for the property to talk about the different ecosystems there and the history of the property. We're working on a tree guide. So it's great to also work with students in other disciplines. But for our students in the department as well, we also have a greenhouse and it just was renovated. So we've got opportunities for students to get paid positions to work in the greenhouse.
Oh, that's awesome.
We're housing organisms in there. So if you go into our Battelle Hall and you peek in the windows of the greenhouse, you're going to see that we've got red-eared sliders in a pond. We've got other species in there. So it's a great facility. We're growing our own food to feed the animals that we house in Battelle Hall as well.
Oh, wow.
And so students can get paid positions in a department to serve as an animal technician. So they get trained, they get that hands-on experience. This is really beneficial for students that are interested in animal behavior, want to get a job in conservation. And we've had students get paid positions and get jobs after Capital at zoos throughout the country, animal sanctuaries, and wildlife rehab facilities too. So I like that we can offer paid positions. So animal tech being one through Primmer as well. And then we also have students that serve as teaching assistants. So they can come back into the classrooms of especially the laboratories of classes that they've taken and done well in, and they can get a little bit more leadership experience. They can work with students. They can help talk about concepts or skills. They also get to know the faculty a little bit better when they serve as TAs. And for many of our students going on to programs after Capital, it's a great way to get really personal letters of recommendation and maybe even think about more about getting into education or becoming a professor and what does that look like. So
yeah, the opportunities, the paid opportunities that you're mentioning are in their field. They don't have to go outside of their field. That's really unique and really great.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, they get to know the faculty better. They get to learn the techniques better that they may be talking about each week in the laboratory. So I think there's a lot of benefits there.
Which faculty do you know the best then?
Well, Dr. Anderson and I know each other really well.
Exactly. I'm also her advisor too.
Yeah,
so unfortunately, she gets to see me quite a bit.
Yep. She sees me for research, and then I've had many classes with Dr. Anderson, so we're pretty tight.
Exactly. Yeah. I also had Emma this past fall in our research methods course. So for our third-year students in the sciences, they take a research methods course. And we also integrated Primmer into that course. So I'm trying to increase the visibility of Primmer and get other students down there and to check it out. And one thing that relates back to what we were talking about with environmental scientists too is Emma also conducted a research project through the course of trying to get other students into nature, helping that to kind of foster how connected they feel to nature. And that can have a positive impact then on their own actions, related to the environment, and hopefully they'll also keep teaching others, and we'll get the word out. Related to that, we also in the department we're really proud of the faculty. We have faculty-led international trips. So over the last 15 years, we've had faculty in the department lead about 150 students over that time. To international locations. So they're gearing up for a trip to the Galapagos in May, this coming May. So there's going to be about a dozen students going with our own faculty to the Galapagos to study biodiversity. They'll do short-term research projects, they'll do service projects, and get involved with community engagement.
Where are some other locations? Yeah, off the top of the mind. I mean, that sounds amazing, but where in the past were some other locations? Yeah,
they went this past fall in December over break to Costa Rica. Okay. So Costa Rica was another one. They've gone and done scuba diving and snorkeling in the Bahamas. These are not terrible places to go.
No, they are not.
Yeah. And even the nursing program or the nursing department also offers trips that are very service learning oriented to work on public health. And public health is also going to be probably a new minor here at Capital. So relates back to some of the things we were talking about earlier.
I really appreciate not only your time, but making me regret the area of study that I chose. Thank you for giving such a great name to the study of sciences. Like, this is so great. I I think that each subject that you guys spoke on and experience of like personal journey is really going to help people that are considering it, or maybe they're already in an area of study that they're thinking about switching. This is huge. I really appreciate your input.
Thank you. Great to be part of it.